Essay number 55. Why you're struggling in your relationships based on your attachment style. Let me tell you something that might be hard to hear. The reason your relationships keep following the same painful patterns isn't bad luck. It's not that all the good people are taken. It's not even about finding the right person. The truth is, you're probably recreating your earliest experiences of love over and over again, completely unaware that you're doing it. Think about it. Before you ever went on a first date, before you ever fell in love, before you even understood what romance was, you were learning about relationships, not through movies or books, but through the most profound teachers you'd ever have, your parents. And those lessons, formed before you could even speak properly, are still running your love life today. This is the power of attachment theory, and understanding it might just be the key to finally breaking free from the relationship patterns that have been holding you back. We develop one of 4 attachment styles in childhood, and these styles become the invisible blueprint for every intimate relationship we'll ever have. Today we're going to explore each one, and more importantly, I'm going to show you exactly why you're struggling in your relationships based on your specific attachment style and what you can do about it. Let's start with secure attachment, which, if you're lucky, describes about 60% of people. If you have secure attachment, congratulations, you won the childhood lottery. One or both of your parents were consistently attuned to your needs. When you cried, someone came. When you were scared, someone comforted you. When you needed space, they gave it to you. You learned the most fundamental truth that many people never learn, that you can trust others with your vulnerability. People with secure attachment objectively struggle the least in relationships. You don't catastrophize when your partner doesn't text back immediately. You don't assume every disagreement means the relationship is over. You can be intimate without losing yourself, and independent without fearing abandonment. But here's where even secure attachers can struggle, and it's probably not what you'd expect. Your very security can become a trap. Because relationships feel relatively easy for you, you might stay in mediocre ones for far too long. That relationship that's fine but not great, you'll stick with it because it's comfortable, because it's good enough, because nothing is terribly wrong. And paradoxically, when the right relationship comes along, the one that actually challenges you to grow, that makes you feel things you've never felt before, you might hesitate. Why? Because for the first time you have something to lose. If this is you, your work isn't about healing trauma or learning to trust. Your work is about learning to be uncomfortable. It's about recognizing that the best things in life exist outside your comfort zone. Take your time, yes, but don't mistake comfort for compatibility. Don't choose the easy relationship over the right one. Now, let's talk about avoidant attachment. And this one is close to my heart because it's increasingly common in our hyper-independent culture. If you have avoidant attachment, your childhood looks something like this. Your parents were physically present, but emotionally absent. When you cried, you were told to stop being dramatic. When you were scared, you were told to be brave. When you needed comfort, you were taught to self-soothe. You became a little adult before you were ready, and you learned the most heartbreaking lesson a child can learn, that needing others is dangerous. So you adapted. You became self-sufficient, independent, the person who never needs help. You're probably successful in your career, have your life together, and people admire your strength. But in relationships, that's where the cracks show. If you're struggling in relationships with avoidant attachment, it's because you've confused intimacy with danger. Deep down, you believe that if someone really knew you, all of you, including the parts you've hidden since childhood, they would leave. So you maintain distance. You might date people who are unavailable because it feels safer. Or you might sabotage relationships just as they're getting serious. You're the person who can accept everyone else's flaws but judges yourself mercilessly for having any. Your work is both simple and terrifying. You need to practice being seen. Start small, maybe with friends. Share something real, something you'd normally keep hidden. Notice that the world doesn't end. Notice that people don't run away. Slowly, incrementally, lower your walls. The intimacy you're avoiding is the very thing that will heal you. Moving on to anxious attachment. And if this is you, my heart goes out to you because your relationships probably feel like emotional roller coasters. Your parents were inconsistent, sometimes warm and loving, other times cold or intrusive. You never knew which version you were going to get. So you became hypervigilant, constantly scanning for signs of danger, for hints that love was about to be withdrawn. As an adult, this translates into relationship anxiety that can be overwhelming. You're the person who reads into every text message, who panics when your partner needs space, who can spiral from "they didn't say I love you back" immediately to "they're definitely cheating on me" in about 3 seconds. You're simultaneously terrified of being alone and terrified of being hurt. So you cling to relationships, even bad ones, like life rafts in a storm. If you're struggling with anxious attachment, it's because you're living in your head instead of reality. You're so busy predicting disasters, mind reading, and protecting yourself from imaginary threats that you're missing what's actually happening. You might stay with someone who treats you poorly because the devil you know feels safer than the uncertainty of being alone. Or you might push away good partners with your constant need for reassurance. Your work is about learning to differentiate between anxiety and intuition. That urgent feeling that something is wrong, 9 times out of 10, it's anxiety, not reality. You need to practice grounding yourself in the present moment. When you feel that familiar spiral starting, stop and ask yourself, what evidence do I actually have for this fear? Am I responding to what's happening or to what I'm afraid might happen? Surround yourself with consistent, reliable people who can help you recalibrate your alarm system. Finally, we need to talk about disorganized attachment. And if this is you, first, I want to acknowledge your strength. You survived something no child should have to survive. Your parents or caretakers weren't just unavailable or inconsistent. They were the source of danger. The very people who were supposed to protect you were the ones hurting you. You were trapped in an impossible situation where you needed to attach to survive, but attachment itself was dangerous. To cope, you learned to disconnect from yourself, from your feelings, from your intuition. You had to, because acknowledging the reality of your situation would have been unbearable. This survival mechanism saved you then, but it's probably destroying your relationships now. If you have disorganized attachment and you're struggling in relationships, it's because you've never learned to trust your own emotional GPS. You might find yourself with partners who hurt you because chaos feels familiar. Or you might choose people you don't even like because you've learned to ignore your own feelings. You probably have moments where you completely check out emotionally, where you watch yourself in the relationship like you're floating above it, disconnected and numb. Your work, and I know this is heavy, involves going back to those early traumas and rewriting the story. Not changing what happened, but changing what it meant. You weren't hurt because you were bad or unlovable. You were hurt because your caretakers were damaged. You need to slowly, carefully, with professional help if possible, reconnect with your emotional self. Learn to feel your feelings in real time instead of days, weeks, or years later. Learn to trust that your emotions are giving you important information, not trying to destroy you. Now, here's what I want you to understand. Regardless of your attachment style, these patterns are not your fault, but they are your responsibility. You didn't choose the childhood that shaped you, but you can choose how you respond to that shaping now. The beautiful thing about attachment styles is that they're not fixed. With awareness, intention, and often therapy, you can develop what's called earned secure attachment. Think about that for a moment. Earned secure attachment. You can literally rewire your nervous system, rewrite your relationship blueprint, and create the love you never got to experience as a child. But it requires facing uncomfortable truths. It requires feeling feelings you've been avoiding for decades. It requires choosing different types of partners and staying when you want to run or leaving when you want to cling. The relationships you're in now, the patterns you keep repeating, they're not random. They're perfectly logical responses to your earliest experiences of love. That person who seems to trigger you in ways no one else can, They're probably activating your attachment system in a way that feels familiar from childhood. That relationship dynamic that you can't seem to escape no matter who you date, it's likely a recreation of your earliest bond. But here's the hope. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Once you understand why you do what you do in relationships, you have choice. You can choose to respond differently. You can choose to stay present when you want to dissociate, to be vulnerable when you want to hide, to trust when you want to run, to let go when you want to grip tighter. Your attachment style is not a prison sentence. It's a starting point. It's information about where you've been, not a prescription for where you're going. Every relationship, every interaction, every moment of conscious choice to do something different than what your attachment style would dictate is a step toward healing. The struggle you're experiencing in your relationships isn't a sign that you're broken or that love isn't for you. It's a sign that old wounds are asking to be healed. It's your psyche's way of saying, hey, we have some unfinished business here. And the beautiful thing about relationships is that they're the perfect arena for that healing to happen. So pay attention to your patterns. Notice when you're acting from your attachment style rather than from your present moment truth. Be gentle with yourself when you slip back into old habits, because you will. Healing isn't linear. But most importantly, remember that the very fact that you're thinking about this, that you want to understand and change these patterns, means you're already on your way to earning secure attachment. The relationships you dream of, the ones where you feel safe and seen and valued exactly as you are, they're not just possible for other people, they're possible for you. But first, you have to be willing to look at why you've been struggling, to understand the blueprint you've been unconsciously following, and to choose, one moment at a time, to write a different story. Your attachment style shaped your past. It doesn't have to define your future.